Robin Hood has been my favorite character in all of history. And I know people hate on it, but the BBC version is my favorite. So today I'm going to do something fun this week and do a tarot reading for Robin. Now remember, tarot is extremely interpretive. What may be for one person is different to another's. I'm going to reference the guy that came with this deck, the Wildwood, because who better knows their own deck than the maker? To add on to that, I'll be pulling from the internet sources as well because they can word it better than I ever could. Finally, my own feelings will be added as they come provoked. This spread was quickly come up with, and I'll explain what they represent as we go. Number 1, the character. This is, essentially who he is. The 5 of Vessels. Ecstasy. It's like a sudden realization at a higher level of consciousness. I know that's starting off pretty strong, but a lot of people refer to it as being delusional, like a strange optimism that only comes from, taking a drug. I feel like it can be refreshing to break free of what holds one to this world, and I'm sure the society can be sort of a drag. The politics, the day-to-day, the pointless of just living, we're all familiar with this. But when he breaks free from that, he's in this new world that could feel like a fairy tale. It must be incredibly uplifting to tear out roots and feel like you have a higher purpose. And I think one of our most common emotions in life is feeling like we have no point, that there's no end game. There's something I really like in how one site talks about the confusing relation to the classic 5 of Cups, because it depicts mourning, sadness, and depression. It's a different image. But they also say it's a conscious move towards healing, an understanding that pain is a part of the process of love and life. And I feel like Robin has lived a good deal being used to the good life by being a noble. When everything happens, I think it starts to hit him about how life just is, and now he has to learn how to adapt to dealing with pain. The only difference is that he has the power to do something about it, and I think that adds to his delusion, as most of us normal people would never dream of being able to do something about it because we haven't been used to tasting power like he has. I feel like also, in a way, it's a stubborn card. For Robin, it could mean I have lost everything, but I'm going to dance because I won't let you see it affect me. At its base, it's also about feeling enjoyment and healing, especially when it comes from experiencing a feeling like love and being loved. Nothing material matters anymore if you're surrounded with people who make you feel good. Dancing under the stars at night, that's something amazing you can truly only experience in the forest, away from all those towns and distractions. In a way, I think it's settling with the idea that there are things bigger and more important than any of our small problems. Seeing the bigger picture. This card gives a lot of people trouble, and I will admit it confused me too. But it's out of the way now. Number 2, the challenges, weaknesses, and obstacles. Interesting enough, even though I shuffled this deck and never looked at the front of them, we have the King, the Knight, and the Page of Arrows all in one draw. For this question, we have the Knight of Arrows. The book talks about the literal personification of a hawk, being up high and using their position to an advantage in order to hunt their prey. To Robin, this can be the same as literally a tendency to look down on people from a position of privilege. Knights are notorious for being swift and impulsive, and this time it's no different. It quotes, "A champion who rides to defend and uphold beliefs for himself and behalf of others. He has clear views and opinions and makes a good advocate for those who have no voice. He is always energetic and spontaneous." But you don't always need to be spontaneous. Sometimes you need to take a step back and plan. Trying to speak for others usually just makes you sound self-righteous. Heroism and holding a grudge is another trait that was mentioned, and those are pretty self-explanatory. There might be a tendency to fall to bait if he takes things too personally. There's also a risk of acting on misinformation. The Knight of Arrows is a youth with sharp intelligence. That means being too clever for your own good, or sometimes thinking you're smarter than everyone else, or even being overconfident. There's also a little tendency to be mischievous, or, playing with your food, as they say. And when you make moves like that, it only takes one mistake to realize you've underestimated your opponent. Number 3, their strength are the skills. This is the page of arrows, the Wren. I like to start with the book definition because the deck knows itself better than I could ever describe. And what it says is that, like the knight, the Wren is another youthful figure. It's somebody who's persistent and doesn't give up. They're observant, and honesty is a valued trait. But they can also be mischievous, especially when it comes to gossip, secrets, or learning things they aren't supposed to know. They describe it as being curious and snooping. But to think of it, a lot of things wouldn't be discovered at all if it wasn't for someone's curiosity. Arrows are the equivalent of swords in this deck, and that's an air element. It governs things like negotiations, charm, contracts, politics, the game. Charisma is a good endearment for all of that. It helps navigate through people who are stronger than you. If we can't be stronger, then we must be smarter. Though being just one person, that one person can make a difference by continuing to test boundaries and limits. Number 4. This one I had to pull for the group, the merry men. They're an essential part of his life. We have to know about it. For this, I pulled the seer. I knew right away that he was seen as a supernatural figure to the group. The idol and the one people who adore and come to respect with great revere. But when I think deeper about it, it could also work in reverse. Robin can't do everything by himself. The group are all different people with different personalities. And he learns that he has to listen to everyone's advice and accept it when they're able to guide him to a better way. That's what makes a good leader. You can't just make decisions and not think about what everybody else thinks. You have to listen to people and then make a decision. It's not enough just to respect someone. Many leaders have been respected, but there's also a deeper connection that each member shares with him, a personal connection that keeps everybody linked. And I think it's also because of his legendary status and skill that the group is inspired by it. It's like having an ability to part the Red Sea. He makes the impossible seem possible. And I bet to everyone else he does look like some kind of magician. There's things they never would have thought of if he hadn't pointed out that they can do this or that. Number 5, the World Tree came up. This one is a pull for his love, Marion. This card is extremely complex to even start to put into words. It's like the epitome of a journey. It's the thing that will complete you when you reach the end. She is integrity, unconditional love that rewards those who are true to themselves, mature and spiritually generous. It's a cycle, like the seasons. Grief will happen, yeah, but you have to preserve and reach happiness and emotional security. It's a wholesome feel. There's this maze in the image before we reach the end, and that's an important part of the card. It won't be easy to get to the end, but you have to start at the beginning and pick up and learn as you go. There's just too much to say about it, or in one word, it's everything. It's a peace at the end when the struggle is over. Imagine when all different aspects of your life have roots, and they all lead to the source of one place. This would be the place. Another way of saying it is that she keeps him grounded. When he starts having these crazy ideas, she reminds him that he has to come back down and join the rest of us normal people. You can't go off and fight an army. You'll die. You can't do this. You'll die. Number 6, the outside view. This is the King of Arrows, the Kingfisher, a symbol of ancient wisdom and lore, a straight symbol of duty to society. He knows from the start everything is for the people. He's quick to see through the game and get straight to the issue. Even from the beginning when Vasey started playing his little power games, Robin wasn't having it. It's a symbol of judgment. He punishes the unfair and unjust, rallies for the weak. Equally at home through air and water, one site says, claiming that he has an ability to control both thoughts and emotions by being meticulous and cautious. It's somebody who upholds standards, who draws a moral line for themselves, and reacts when someone is crossing it. He understands the nature of men and will evaluate their actions by how it reflects on the people he's trying to protect. He'll always try to be fair when put in a position of power. I imagine for a while he's had to deal with the petty problems of the village at an early age, like deciding who wins in civil arguments. He can be ruthless when need be, but can be always trusted to remember his social responsibility. TarotX.net says, As a person, the King of Arrows is a skillful communicator, and his innate sense of fairness attracts many who value his objective opinion. His desire for truth and his need to demonstrate honesty in his actions can make him seem a severe and indifferent figure. He can be critical, but this criticism is not given from a need to wound or hurt. It simply arises from the high standards that he has set. And since those standards apply to himself as much as anyone around him, he can be equally critical of himself. And I think that's a perfect way to describe how he's seen from the outside. Number 7. Lessons from the past. 6 of Vessels, reunion.
You shouldn't stand by and let something terrible happen because you were too scared to do the right thing.
Remembering, the innocence and naivety and how happy you were before you realized how much is really going on in the world. It's healing. It's past relationships and feeling comfortable where you are now compared to then. We don't see a lot of his childhood, but we know that his father did his best when trying to teach Robin to be a better person, not to let pride get the best of him. I think he does his best not to be jaded by the way the world is, and it's important to make memories while we have the chance. He might not have felt a sense of belonging, but he does now. Everyone is learning who they are as they go through day by day. It's a time where the group starts wondering about how they can assimilate back into normal life. And it's so surreal to try and imagine it. He might long for how it used to be before all of this, but he has to remember not to just live in the past, but to make the best of what you can now. I commonly see this new family trope with this card. A lot of the people that are here with him have walked side by side with him the whole time, especially much. Those are the people who know you the best. Who you were, what made you who you are. Number 8, the final card is for general advice. We get a great card for this. The Sun.
You are always in the sun, Robin, and I'm always in the shade.
Is that meant to be an excuse?
This is a great card. Think of the sun. Its warmth, the embodiment of positivity. He must remember that there is abundance and prosperity everywhere. The forest is full of endless resources. The best way to live a simple life. How many times have we wished we could drop the stress of day-to-day and just run away and live in the forest? It's possibility, it's flourishing, and I think he has to accept that in a way he will always be the sun, and they are always going to look to him as a symbol of hope as their leader. The sun will always rise again, no matter how dark it may get.
You see, the sun emerges again like England's protector. His journey is complete. He appears into the light and he will save you.
Well, that's all for this reading. I'm actually surprised. When I was pulling the cards, I didn't think they were matching him. But when I started to dig deeper, and think about details, it is a great fit. I feel like a lot of people misread them because the cockiness and the attitude, but when you get down to it, I feel like it's just the pressure of being a leader. I hope this was enjoyable to watch as it was for me to make.